I wonder if we're both visible here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, welcome to Midnight Screaming in Mexico.
With Sophie and with Jerry. We just watched Batman vs Superman.
Batman vs Superman, because Superman vs Batman didn't work for the studio. They wanted to make it Batman vs Superman.
Obviously, because the studio apparently hates Superman so much, they made him completely depressing.
And spoilers, he died.
Yeah, spoilers, he died.
Spoilers for this review. This is going to be so full of spoilers.
Oh, yeah, by the way, we should probably have said spoilers before we said spoilers, he died. But
I did say spoilers.
Yeah, I guess.
They're doing people who knows of Doomsday know that already in the comic books. That's kind of what Doomsday does.
Oh, but that's one thing about the movie I want to talk about. But first, obviously he dies because he's Jesus and he died for your sins. Get it? Christian imagery. Oh, Superman is Jesus, and Zack Snyder wants you to know that.
I can tell you we had quite fun with this because in the morning already the early reviews for the movie had gotten in at Rotten Tomatoes, and we actually followed the bad reviews, and everybody was giving this movie pretty mediocre reviews. Even the fresh tomatoes sounded
even the fresh reviews sounded a little bit like backhanded compliments, like, oh well, the acting is nice, and
it was just it's okay, it's quite good, sorta. It's like they had to justify liking it or something like that, and we just
it was like they were trying to justify liking the movie.
So our expectations were quite low going.
Very, very low.
But we actually quite liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say completely that I liked it personally, but because there are a lot of issues actually with this movie, but I think what the word we're looking for is we didn't hate it.
We actually quite enjoyed it, but it is a very flawed movie. And also what we seem to agree very much on is that a lot of in this movie was really good. The acting was really good, the directing was really good, the music was pretty good, even though it was kind of misfitting.
The music didn't fit at all with the scenes.
The one thing that really didn't work was the script. The script sucked ass.
Oh my God's name, the script is so terrible. I mentioned earlier that the Jesus symbolism in the movie is very obvious, and trust me, it's really, really obvious, and it gets annoying, especially at the end when, spoiler again, Superman dies saving us all because he's Jesus! Superman is Jesus!
He sacrifices himself, and Lois Lane goes, no, you can't, no, don't do this, and he goes, I must.
And every possible cliche of that scene that you can imagine, that's how it goes. The most cliche way you can imagine, definitely. The script really is bad.
How about the Mexican scene? You were so mad about that. And
oh my God. Okay, so there's this scene where Superman overhears that there's a disaster in Mexico. There's a fire during Day of the Dead, because of course it's during the Day of the Dead. So I'm guessing you guys remember the scene from the trailer where there's a bunch of people with faces painted worshipping Superman, and everybody thought it was weird. Well, the reason they're like that is because apparently that's, well, I mean, okay, some people celebrate Day of the Dead like that, especially in parades and things like that. But the fire was happening at night, and it's just so weird to see people still with that makeup from Day of the Dead at night. But I guess for convenience, for Zack Snyder's convenience for the plot, everybody had to be painted like that, so they look like fanatics.
That scene was not necessary at all.
Oh, it was completely unnecessary.
Completely unnecessary scene. It didn't do anything for the plot.
I think it was meant to paint Superman as this figure that people worshipped.
Yeah, the movie kind of played that up a lot, that it was about that a lot of people had started worshipping Superman, but other people called him a menace, that, you know, he killed people like in the first movie.
He's the Masked Menace. Wait, wrong movie. Wrong movie. The Masked Menace is from another movie. No.
He's also in this movie. He's called Batman.
Oh yeah, that's true. But going back to the Mexican scene, because of course I would hate the Mexican scene. Of course, they showed the Mexicans as these gullible people who only worship him because he's Jesus, obviously, and because I guess we are a
He
Catholic
saved
nation.
a young girl from a fire.
Yeah, she did, but I don't know. The way they painted the Mexicans was just a little bit derogatory. Especially when all of the men there were actually wearing sombreros. If not sombreros, at the very least a cowboy hat, because Mexico. And Mexico is a country.
But keep in mind, this was actually a very short scene. He makes it sound like red, but it only lasted for like 20 seconds.
Oh yeah.
And that's another thing with the superheroes. They had really commercialized that there were so many superheroes, that the Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman in this movie, and they only there for like 5 seconds each.
Newsflash for all of those 5 people who are excited to see Aquaman in the movie. He is in the movie for like 10 seconds and then
5
he's gone.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, 5 probably. He literally just has a cameo of surveillance footage. Surveillance footage.
And also, this is how random this movie is, that we are going on with the plot, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, we see Batman in a completely random scene, dressed up randomly, and picks up guns and starts shooting all these terrorists.
That was completely out of place.
And it was so you just didn't. And of course, it was a dream vision, but that was not clear.
Oh, but you're forgetting, Sophie. It wasn't just a normal vision. It was a vision transferred from the Flash, who was traveling back in time to warn Batman about the great evil future that awaits us. So basically,
we only saw Flash face for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But even that is something we know because we already know comic books.
All of this we understood because we know about comic books. So imagine somebody in the audience who doesn't know anything about this. This is why the script is so wrong. You have to explain it, even if maybe you don't have to explain it in some situations, but in this situation where time travel is actually involved, how do you expect the audience members to understand what's going on? They're gonna see the dream sequence and think, what the fuck was that? Why was I watching that?
And I kept going on that dream sequence. It was actually quite long.
It was longer than it should have been.
It was really long. And it just,
and then you have Flash. Yeah, Lois Lane is the key. Something. I am Flash. Please look at my costume.
And that never really came into play.
No, obviously, because, and here's the thing, we were only halfway through the movie when that scene happened. They were sequel baiting us from the middle of the movie. How weird is that?
Yeah, and also the way that Superman and Batman fight and how they become friends is like they fight and you almost kill Superman, and then it's like, save my mother, and then Batman goes, oh, my mom is dead, so now I'm sad, now I'm your friend. And then he's literally just turned in 5 seconds and goes save mother.
Well, you have to understand, Sophie, like I've been saying all this time, they're both the same character. They both have their parents dead and they're both orphans, so obviously they are kindred spirits. They just didn't understand that.
Yeah, Batman just remember his own mother is dead, so Superman's mother couldn't die, so he has to go save her.
Oh, and he has to remember it via flashback.
Now they are friends.
Oh, and they're friends almost immediately. Like
no, not almost immediately.
No, immediately. So okay, let me frame the scene for you. Bats is about to murder Superman. Spoiler alert, he beats Superman because obviously Warner Brothers wants Batman more than Superman, but whatever. Obviously he beats Batman. He beats Superman, and he's about to kill him when Superman says, "Martha, you gotta save Martha!" And Bat's, I swear to God, I'm not lying. Bat's face, it's so confused. You can see Ben Affleck. Even Ben Affleck is confused by the direction Zack Snyder's taking with this scene, because you can see his face like, what? What did you just say? What?
And then Lois Lane runs in and says, his mom! He meets his mom! And then he goes all sad and we see the flashback of his own mother die.
Yeah, because we can't... We did, even if we saw it at the start of the movie, apparently we can't remember that his mother died. We have to see it in a flashback, obviously.
Batman's parents are dead?
What? Spoiler alert!
I never knew that!
Well, color me surprised! So, yeah, that actually happened, but that's not the worst part. The worst part is that immediately, right after that moment, Batman doesn't hate Superman anymore.
Actually, they are friends now.
Yeah, they are friends now.
They joins up like that. And of course, Lex Luthor have the backup plan if this plan didn't work, that, you know, he made Doomsday just in case. Whatever, if Superman had died.
He made Doomsday because, of course, Warner Brothers didn't trust that the movie could only be about Batman and Superman, and they had to have the other superheroes.
I also love his idea that Lex Luthor pitched Batman against Superman in hope of that Batman would kill Superman, but then he also made Doomsday as an extra weapon just in case. But what would you have done if Batman has actually killed Superman?
Well, everybody's dead because Lex Luthor is psychotic, and the Joker. Yeah, by the way, Lex Luthor is totally the Joker in this.
and that's the thing, it was actually not a bad performance, but it was not Lex Luthor.
Definitely not Lex Luthor. And I know there are different interpretations of the character, and you can have a different Lex Luthor in every interpretation. But this guy was the Joker. In fact, I could see this guy playing the Joker.
He would have been really good as the Joker. Again, it was not a bad performance. It was actually a pretty good performance. That he was this nervous, pretty psychotic, and
you see this nervous, psychotic person. But you see his face, you see his hair, and you don't buy him as the super smart person.
That he's socially awkward and super smart, but I could buy that he was super smart, but just not that way.
I don't know about you.
He didn't have that presence of Lex Luthor that really stands
Yeah, obviously, Lex Luthor needs to have presence. Needs to be someone that can impose his image. And this guy just didn't do it for me.
No.
Actually, he did. I don't know for you, but he didn't even look smart for me.
No, he did, look very socially inept, and he didn't know what to do in social situations. But I also think that what they were going for, that he's one of those super smart guys that's so smart that he can do science things, but then he can't do anything else.
Yeah, the awkward kind of
and
guy.
And he's a psychopath and so on, and he did play that well, that you did get that he was a psychopath, but he didn't feel like Lex Luthor.
He felt more like the Joker, actually.
Yeah, he did. Except I don't think I've ever seen the Joker being so socially inept.
Well, the Joker is kind of socially inept. Remember in the animated series, he just is completely oblivious to Harley Quinn's love, for example.
Well, it's the thing with many psychopaths that they are actually very charming, and the Joker is very charming. That's how he won Harley Quinn over. But then when he has her over, and then when she leaves him and so on, he starts on that what you call first love phase again, where he starts being charming again, then he turns to, and that's actually very realistic to real, true abusive relationships.
Yeah, totally.
And
true.
Real, true psychopaths are generally very charming because they don't have emotions in their way. So.
And that's how you know how Lex Luthor is not a really good character in this movie, because we are talking now about the Joker in the animated series of Batman. But yeah, seriously, the Joker was not really good in this. I mean, sorry, Lex Luthor. See, well, I am already confusing things.
Well, again, as I said, the performance was fine, but he didn't have that presence. He didn't really feel like a menace.
And again, the script doesn't work at his advantage. So apparently, out of convenience.
All the actors did what they could with a bad script. They were actually really good actors. As we said, Alfred is both our favorite character.
Okay, Alfred is probably the best thing. The only... If you hate this movie, at least Alfred is gonna be the only thing you love about this movie. His quips, his dialogue is so just...
And I am so convinced that he improvised most of his lines, because those lines don't fall in line with the rest of the lines.
The line about, maybe you get a son. Nice dream, Alfred.
Well, maybe you'll settle down in my dream.
In my dreams.
Just that disappointment.
You just know that was improvised. Because the rest of the script is just terrible.
Well, the rest of the script really sounds like Man of Steel and the Christopher Nolan movie, where they don't speak to each other, but they hold speeches at each other.
Exactly.
But Alfred was actually talking, so that's how you know he improvised the lines. And you also just
really
know
like
that at one point Ben Affleck says, "Shit," and you know that was improvised, because that was actually really good delivery.
But too bad they would put that in the trailer.
Yeah. But that was one of the better things, just that one shit thing.
The best jokes, some of the best jokes of the movie. Oh, surprisingly, this movie has a couple jokes, but some of the best jokes are already in the trailer, sorry.
Yeah, and again, the good jokes are the ones that were totally improvised. You can just tell they were improvised because they didn't feel in line with the script, with the horrible script.
Yeah, okay, so we keep talking about the horrible script, so I think we need to justify that. Let's talk about the plot, how convenient it is that Lex Luthor has this chamber with salt, and completely detailed instructions on how to turn him into an abomination.
Well, he did, find the ship's ship and put
Yeah,
the
of
thing
course he
in
had
and
the ship.
said, give me information, and it gave him all the information. What I
It's
don't-
still convenient. It's still too convenient.
Well, what I still understand is how they knew about each other. How do you know that Superman cares about Lois Lane? How did you know that Clark is Superman? How do you know that Batman is Bruce? They just know. We're never told how they know.
Apparently, Lex
They
knows
just
everything
know.
from the start of the movie. From the start of the movie, Lex has everything figured out. He knows Bruce Wayne is Batman. He knows Superman is Clark Kent. He knows everything.
Well, he also even knows that Diana Prince is Wonder Woman. He has the files.
Apparently, he has files of every future Justice League member, and he knows who they are, all of them. Because he's an evil genius, and
It is never explained how he knows these things. He just knows it.
yeah, he just knows it.
Also, suddenly he finds kryptonite and he knows that it's bad for Superman. How do you know this? It hasn't been even introduced to the movie plot yet. It wasn't introduced in the last movie that kryptonite is bad for Superman. Nobody knows
He
this.
knows that. He knows this because Batman had a dream about it. Okay, but we keep talking about the script.
Yeah, one thing
For
I
some
would say
reason-
I was really happy about actually was Wonder Woman.
Oh, Wonder
I was
Woman was
really
great.
happy about. She didn't do much, but the actress actually did very well with the few things he had.
did what he could with what he got.
Yeah,
what
but
she
her
got.
fight scenes were actually
she got.
really cool when she finally got to fight.
Oh yeah,
The-
there's
the-
this one scene where she's fighting and she gets hit, and you see her face and she smiles. She smiles, and that's pretty cool because she's enjoying the fight, and that's
Yeah, and she
that's
was
something you don't see in these
hardcore.
movies.
She doesn't get to have any lines. She doesn't get to have any personality. But when she finally does fight, it actually looks really cool and
Right.
really good. And,
And
that is what I would want from a Wonder Woman movie.
Exactly, and one thing
So-
I was worried about with Wonder Woman in this movie, and I told you this before, is that she would be quickly beaten and Superman would have to save the day because, Wonder Woman can't handle Doomsday, Superman has to help her. But no, she actually holds her own very well.
She does. She's really hardcore. Actually, the one person who doesn't hold his own against Doomsday is Batman, but that makes sense.
Batman does absolutely nothing in that fight, which I am completely okay with because Batman sucks, but whatever.
Well, he doesn't have any superpowers. How could he? Wonder Woman just goes in with her bracelets and blocks the beam. Batman can't.
That was a really cool scene.
Yeah, and I also really love she got to use her lasso.
Oh, and okay, I do like the lasso too, but I felt it was totally out of nowhere that he had the lasso. Like, okay, maybe he has the lasso in one of the shots or whatever, but hey, by the way, Wonder Woman has this magical lasso and she's using it now.
Now I think about it, we know who Wonder Woman is and what she can do, but the movie never explains it.
That's the thing about the movie. The movie expects you to know all these things because you follow the comic books, but we know because we follow these stories because we know this.
I know about the bracelets and the super string and the lasso, but the movie never says this.
Yeah, and
It
remember,
never tells.
this movie is supposed to be for everybody else. Even if Zack Snyder says that it's only for comic book fans, other people
Who
are
would
going
make
to want
a
to
movie only for comic book fans? That's really dumb.
Somebody really stupid, like DC, for example.
Yeah.
But whatever. But anybody else will be completely confused at the plot of this movie. Completely. I mean, of course, they're going to be able to follow the fact that Batman wants to fight Superman and Doomsday has to be stopped. That's gonna be okay with them. But they're just going to be starting asking questions. What the fuck is going on? Why does Wonder Woman has a magical lasso? What does the lasso do? Why did her bracelets stop an explosion?
Who is she? Where does she come from? What's the deal with this chick?
We don't even get a name on her.
She's just very randomly popping up and then she disappears and then she pops up again. She's not explained at all.
No, she's just there. They just inserted her there and look, there she is.
She is very inserted. She doesn't really play a role in the plot at all.
No, nothing.
The plot is just Batman and Superman and Lois Lane is the main characters. And Batman wants to kill Superman for reasons.
And in the end, Lex Luthor uses Zod to create an abomination, which he calls Doomsday because, well, we're using Doomsday.
He is Superman's Doomsday.
Yeah, Superman's. You're Doomsday! Oh, he has this really cheesy scene where he says, if man won't kill God, the devil will do it! Here he is, Superman. You're Doomsday. And then we have Doomsday come up as a fetus outside of a chrysalid or something like that, and it looks so ridiculous. The music was epic.
Yeah, the music.
But
was
it clashed so badly with the scenes. It just didn't fit right.
It really took itself. Oh yeah, that horrible speech. Now we didn't have Papa Kent anymore to make dumb speeches. Martha Kent had
we do have Papa Kent for dumb speeches.
Yeah, he did.
He does have that.
But Martha Kent had an even dumber speech.
Oh, Matt Kent had the dumbest speech of the movie. I'm pretty sure you already know it because, again, it was on the trailer. Matt Kent tells Superman that be their hero, Clark, be their god, be whatever they want it to be, or be none of it. Because these people hate you, and I didn't want you to be found out because the people won't understand you. The people won't understand the concept of a superhero.
I didn't want to share you. You should have been with me.
Yeah, you should have been with me. You should have become a superhero. Oh my God, grim, dark, so edgy. So yeah,
and Park Kent just appears out of nowhere
shows
in a dream
out of nowhere.
version.
In a dream sequence,
because that was needed.
He tells Superman a metaphor about how he saved the farm, but in the process destroyed another farm. You know,
I think he killed the horses, wasn't that it?
Yeah, something about drowning horses. So he kills another farm, destroys another farm, and this is supposed to make Superman see that he can't possibly save everyone.
That scene was so needed in this movie.
So necessary.
Don't you think it's so necessary? 3 hour long movie and we so needed that scene that brought nothing to the
It was very important to see it.
But as you said, Alfred didn't have any important speeches, which probably made him such a good character.
Yeah, he didn't have self-important speeches like the Alfred from the Batman movie, from the Nolan movies.
And all his lines were probably improvised. And Wonder Woman didn't have any yes, she had a speech. She had a speech too. She had a speech about that she left humanity 100 years ago.
Oh yeah, but that was at the end of the movie. Oh, okay. You say that you didn't feel dragged during the movie, but during the end, the final 10 minutes, I was already ready to leave the room because the movie was done. It was wrapped up.
It kept fading out.
And kept fading out and going back to another scene and fading out and going back to another scene.
You know, the Lord of the Rings syndrome. So.
Yeah, and the thing is about those final 10 minutes is that nothing important was going on. You could have got all of that because all of that was just minor setup for the next movie. And it's not like they are showing us stuff with the new heroes or anything else.
And there was no clip after the credits.
Oh yeah, there was no after credits clip.
We actually waited, and a whole bunch of people in there waited for after the credits. Also, I watched the first part of the movie in Spanish.
Oh, we had this. Oh, we should have said this in the beginning, but we had a terrible experience at the theater. We bought our tickets with Spanish subs and in English because obviously the movies come both in Spanish and in English over here in Mexico.
And I don't understand Spanish at all.
Clearly. So I bought my tickets for the English version of the movie, but the movie starts playing and suddenly it's in Spanish. So we go I go down to ask a clerk for information because and I show him my ticket because clearly I bought my ticket for the English showing, and he says, yeah, we're gonna check it out. And okay, I think okay, they're gonna change it in a couple minutes, but no. 5 more minutes pass and nothing. So I try to go find a clerk again, and he tells me, I'm sorry, sir, we can't change the movie. It would take an hour to change apparently it takes an hour to set up the movie again because it's 2 different films, one with the Spanish dub and one with the English dub. I don't know, maybe if some of you work at the theater, maybe you know how that works, but apparently it takes an hour to change all that. So it was obvious they weren't going to change it. Fortunately, they offered me to change rooms, so we actually got to change to a room that had an English sub.
It was quite fortunate that those 2 movies played at the same time.
Oh yeah, well, it is a multiplex theater, so the movie was playing in a lot of rooms. Yeah, and it was premiere
night, but still.
And it was premiere night, so yeah.
But still, yeah.
But yeah, we watched the first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie completely in Spanish.
So good for me, I could finally watch the English version, so I could get all that wonderful dialogue.
Yeah, I'm sure you were missing the beautiful dialogue from that movie.
Oh, the wonderful, wonderful dialogue. It was so riveting.
Yeah, like,
Riveting dialogue. It's like
very, very
Shakespeare.
interesting. Yeah.
About, you know, about the mortality of man and gods and devils, that he wanted to turn the picture upside down because the devils come
That
from
was
the
so
sky.
stupid. Okay, so you know the line from the trailer. You know the biggest lie in history, Senator. Devils come from the sky. That angels come from the sky, and devils from below. But it's backwards. I should turn this picture backwards, and we got to a picture of devils from below and angels from the top. And obviously, at the end of the movie, they show the picture again, and it's turned upside down to signify that something evil is coming from beyond, from the sky.
Oh, all the Lex Luthor dialogue when he's holding Sword's body, it's just like, oh, you flew too close to the sun, and he's talking about the philanthropist. It's like that. And because that he challenged Zeus, he was hit by lightning.
Oh, that's another thing about Lex Luthor in this movie. He likes to use Greek mythology analogies
for some reason.
Because they fit the movie, and obviously Greek gods and Greek athletes and Greek legends fit with the superhero pantheon and all that stuff.
And also
it was
by
way
the end
too
when they
heavy-handed.
shave his head and they say it's the chair, then obviously it's not the chair anyway. There's just shaving his head to
Yeah,
have it
I
there.
told you that. Okay, so there at the end of the movie, in one of the completely unnecessary scenes of the end, like I told you, the last 10 minutes completely unnecessary.
That one was especially unnecessary.
So there's a scene where they literally cut his hair, and I'm asking Sophie, why
They
are
shave his head.
Yeah, they're shaving.
shave his
They're
head.
shaving his head, so he looks like Lex Luthor. Finally, at the end of the movie, of course, and they're shaving his head. And I asked Sophie, why are they doing that? And she tells me a very true thing. Maybe they're doing it because he's getting the chair, and that's why they had to cut his hair. But no, that's not at all what happened. They just
Put him in a cell.
They just put him in a cell.
And then Batman
shake
shows
hair and
up
all.
for reasons.
Oh, and then
Batman shows up for absolutely no reason.
Okay, so going back to the fact that the last 10 minutes completely useless, here's another part I mean with that. Batman shows up for absolutely no reason to threaten Lex by telling him, I know where you are, and I will be following your every move. And Lex goes on a tirade about how they heard the signal, they are coming. Oh, they are coming.
Yeah, the bell rang and they heard it.
Completely over the top, and I just couldn't take that seriously.
That actually kind of reminds me of Jim Carrey as the Riddler in the
It's
ending
similar
of
to that
Batman
scene.
Forever.
Yeah. They're coming.
They're coming.
And just in that moment, it cuts back to his house with the painting upside down.
Yeah.
And I couldn't hold myself. I actually laughed at that scene.
That's the last shot of the movie, though.
That is the last shot of the movie.
But yeah, we didn't hate the movie, which was good, and it didn't drag on except the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, except for the last
so
10
it
minutes.
wasn't the most terrible thing ever. I actually like this better than I liked Man of Steel.
Well, that's because Man of Steel is a freaking depressing fest.
Yeah, I'm probably going to watch this again sometime, but I will never watch Man of Steel ever again.
No. I guess I'm going to watch this movie again to understand a few of the reference, because I am not that big of a comic book fan, so there are some things that were a little bit lost on me. Speaking of which, people are going to be very confused about that final scene where Lex is saying, they're coming, because they don't know what's coming. Okay, so for an explanation, remember the dream scene we mentioned? Batman?
Yeah, the really random dream scene
Yeah,
that somehow was imposed into Batman's mind by the Flash by traveling back in time.
Try to wrap your head around that. So in this scene, there's a shot, a really good shot actually, of Batman looking to the floor and the fields, and there's this logo of an Omega letter. Now, those who know comics probably know that the Omega. Sorry, I thought I saw something. Probably know that the Omega letter is the symbol for Darkseid. So basically.
So do you want to watch any of the sequels?
Oh, well, I know I'm going to watch it because review.
We're just going to.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if we want to. We're just going to. Actually, I am a bit more excited for it now. I actually quite do want to watch that Wonder Woman movie now. I want to see this actress as Wonder Woman. She was really
Yeah,
good.
I actually quite like her as Wonder Woman. They didn't do much to favor her in the movie, but the little scenes that she was very good at.
Yeah.
I like the battle scenes.
She did the very best she could with very little material.
I wasn't a big fan of the scenes where she was Diana Prince because, like I told Sophie, there were some scenes.
She was just a stone. She had no expression. It was just like she was supposed to be this stoic, serious woman, and then when she finally cut loose, it's so good.
Yeah, she didn't have any character when she was Diana,
No.
and there were a lot of scenes. Well, not a lot, but most of the scenes where she was in. The camera was focused on an important part, if you know what I mean. There's this particular surveillance footage where you can see they focus on her boobs because woman, of course, and you can see her uncovered back and
With some very sexy dresses she wears.
yeah, obviously.
Nice dresses. I can't wear dresses like that.
Ah, of course you can.
Of course I can. We can
Well,
all be Wonder Women.
We can all be Wonder Woman. Yeah, I could totally pull off those dresses. Sophie knows that.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I might be looking forward to Wonder Woman. The other movies, not so much.
I guess they are making, the death of Superman now, where he returns with several versions of Superman.
Oh yeah, and if you wanted to do not be spoiled about whether Superman returns or not. The final shot of the movie, I don't think you remember. I don't think you mentioned this. The devil picture is not the last shot.
Yeah,
the real last shot.
Coffin.
Yeah, they show his coffin, and suddenly the dirt Lois Lane through starts to go up, and then they got to the credits. So they couldn't even save the surprise that Superman would return.
You know, he even kind of died twice in this movie because he also died out in space.
Oh, he died 3 times actually.
3 times.
He died first in space when they. Oh, by the way, the Americans throw a fucking nuke to Superman and Doomsday in space because.
And somehow they
Go
hit.
America!
Somehow they hit that.
Oh yeah, somehow they hit them while fighting. Figure out how that works, and of course, the nuke only makes Doomsday more powerful. But the Americans used it anyway because
and basically killed Superman, but he reawakens when the sun.
Oh yeah, he regenerates because he's out there with the sun.
Is it the pool you're referring to with the second time?
Yeah, the second time.
Well, he didn't really die there.
He nearly died. So Batman makes this spear with the kryptonite. Because he steals the kryptonite from Lex Luthor, by the way, and
somehow he knew that would work.
And somehow he knew that kryptonite because he knew from a dream, obviously.
Yes, that's actually introduced in the dream, but it doesn't show that.
They don't even show the kryptonite.
It doesn't even show that it worked. Nobody mentions that this works against Kryptonians before the very last, after it's already been used.
Batman mentions it.
Does he?
He says this kryptonite can weaken Kryptonians, and that's the only establishing we get.
That kryptonite dust he uses kind of kryptonite dust bombs at Superman.
Oh yeah, and they only work for a short amount of time, so the fight can keep going. Even though the fight was actually really short.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't more than 10 or 15 minutes.
But actually the fight sequences and the fight choreography was really quite good. There was a fight where Batman saves Martha Kent against all these thugs, and it looks really cool. It's a really cool fight scene.
I will admit that fight scene is really good. But the fight between Batman and Superman... Okay, so
it was not the most epic fight of gladiators like Lex Luthor said.
Definitely not. Definitely disappointing.
That was overhyped.
It was definitely a disappointing fight, and here's why.
But it was in an abandoned building, so nobody died.
Oh yeah! Speaking of which, okay, so you know how Zack Snyder got all this heat because because of all the deaths in Man of Steel, all the casualties, the alternative casualties, and all the people that Superman died because he couldn't find a way to defend the city without actually destroying the whole city. Okay, so you know that. In this movie, every time there's going to be a big brawl or a big explosion, somebody, any character at any point says, "Oh, but this place is abandoned." So there's this scene where Doomsday falls on an island, and the military go, "Oh, but it's an abandoned island, so nothing's going on there." Or
yeah, and they say, "Well, it's in downtown, but people have gone home from work."
Oh
now.
yeah, got the news footage. Thankfully, the work hours are done, so nobody is in the center of the city. It was just so funny to see that.
There was a lot of collateral damage anyway, though.
Of course, there was collateral damage, but at least nobody died because there was an empty place. It was like, actually they pulled the Power Rangers. It was the empty space building, literally. And it was just so funny every time it happened. I couldn't help but laugh every time that happened, because they say, "Oh, the building is abandoned." Batman brings Doomsday to I think it was a storage place in Gotham, and he says, "Oh, the place is abandoned, so it's fine." It was just so funny.
It was, so it was kind of unintentionally funny.
Yeah, it was a little bit.
And again, it's one of those movies that's fun talking about it because of how inconsistent it was.
Yeah, like we said, the script is. Speaking of inconsistency, wasn't Soul's throat cut? His head completely broken.
What?
Wasn't Zod's head completely broken?
Yeah, that's what I talk about. Is how did Zod get into the ship? Did Batman break his neck and put him back into
Superman
the
broke his neck.
Superman broke his neck and put him back into the Kryptonite ship and just left it all there where Lex Luthor can find it?
Apparently. Apparently Superman just left Zod's body to rot in the bottom of the sea or something.
Not in the bottom of the sea, exactly inside of the ship where it could be used to make Doomsday.
Yeah, what I mean is that he let the ship crash and he didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, at least take it to the Fortress of Solitude or something.
At the very
least. I know you have the Fortress of Solitude, we don't see it in this movie, but it was
we don't see it. He goes to the North Pole, he goes to the Arctic. I don't know if it was the North Pole or the Arctic or whatever. He goes there, but we don't see the Fortress of Solitude because I don't know why.
But he have a random dream vision with Pac-Man.
Because it was more important to see his dream sequence with Pac-Man, where he told him that he couldn't be a hero because heroes are an impossible ideal and ideals are boring. We need dark and brooding characters. This is DC, goddammit!
Isn't it Lex Luthor that has that entire speech? It's like, well, if you're an almighty, you can't be an all-idealist, but if you're an all-idealist, you can't be almighty.
So stupid. And you know what's the worst thing about this? That this is kind of the idea that most of the people have these days. That you can have a superhero who's an idealist and a pacifist. It just doesn't. It is impossible because power always corrupts people. But that's the point about Superman, that he is struggling to keep that balance.
Yeah, is that he has to be an idealist. He has to be this moral, because if he don't, he can become the biggest menace of the world, and he knows it. So it's a constant fear.
And obviously the movie works to set him up as the worst menace of the world, because I don't know if you noticed, but there are various scenes where Superman says, "If I wanted, I could kill you.
Yeah.
I could destroy you right now.
I think it's a pretty potent...
Don't do it or I will kill you."
It is a pretty potent point when he fights against Batman and he just wants to freaking talk to Batman.
That's what I was getting at just a few minutes before. So basically, the fight starts because Lex Luthor has Martha Kent, Clark's mom, hostage, and he has to fight Batman in order to make sure that she's safe. So he goes to fight Batman, but instead of fighting him, he tries to reason with him, and that was a great opening to the battle. And they start by having Clark saying, "Batman, you have to understand. I have to save her. You have to work with me." And Batman starts punching him. So you'd think that being the Man of Steel and being able to receive all these punches, he would continue to try to reason with Batman until he couldn't. But nope. Next thing he does is punching him back because, oh, how dare you punch me? I'm Superman.
We needed that fight scene. That is the title of the movie, Batman vs. Superman. We needed them to fight.
But again, it was just so disappointing to see Superman do that. Completely out of character. to just react at the very first sign of violence. Like, he could have at least withstand a few more punches.
He was, attacked by machine guns and so on before he went that far. Batman had set up a trap with machine guns.
What was it? Speaking of which, what was the point of that? if Batman already had the kryptonite gas, why did he try shooting him?
Because we needed a fight scene, damn it.
But that was a really dumb scene. It was just stupid.
We needed to drag it out. We needed that fight scene to be at least 10 minutes long.
No, let me tell you the truth. They just wanted to have Clark do his laser beam eyes because he couldn't do it in a fight with Batman, so they had to have him do it somehow. So that's why they had the guns. Oh, speaking of which, Batman uses guns in this. Lots of guns.
Well, sometimes he does, sometimes he don't. It's kind of inconsistent.
But of course, when he's fighting hand to hand, he doesn't use the guns.
Yeah, but then on his car, he has like machine guns.
The Batmobile is a fucking arsenal, a freaking arsenal, and it's just so dumb, so freaking dumb. And of course, he does kill many bad guys, but it's okay because they're bad guys.
Collateral damage.
Oh yeah, collateral damage.
Lots of.
But this time, the places were abandoned.
And there were at one point where it looked like Batman got shot in the head and nothing happened. That really confused me.
Oh yeah. Well, he has his super suit, so of course he's okay.
Not even, a concussion or anything. No, it just goes.
He's
up.
just fine.
And it was right to the neck. It was like the barrel right there.
Yeah.
And shot.
Yeah, and he still survived. He's just fine. Nothing happened. Just go on with your day. Everything's normal. Yeah, like I said, the fight was really disappointing. It wasn't this gladiator match that Lex Luthor was supposed to.
Actually, the fight between Batman and Superman was the worst fight in the entire movie.
Exactly.
All the other fights were way better.
I mean, I liked the parts with Wonder Woman fighting Doomsday, but Superman versus Doomsday, he didn't do anything.
But Batman versus the Fox with Arthur Kent, and even though I really hated the dream sequence that Batman used so many shotguns, it was a cool fighting scene.
He did have a good fighting scene in that bit, but
yeah, it was a good fighting scene, but I just hated he used so many guns in it.
Gotta kill the bad guys, they're bad guys.
Even though it was a dream sequence, it wasn't real. I think that was kind of the point. But again, you have to know the character. You have to know that Batman don't use guns. And they never mention it in the movie.
Well, maybe,
so it doesn't become a point like that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting at. Maybe in this universe, he does use guns.
No, I don't think he does. He didn't in the hand-to-hand combat. And he could have picked up guns and he didn't and so on.
But the Batmobile and the Batwing do have guns.
Yeah, so that's really confusing. But I think that is a statement they try to put up, that this is such a horrible future that you have gone so bananas and now you use this gun too, and that's really terrible, you have been pushed so far and so on. But they never explain that in the movie that he doesn't use guns.
I wish.
They do zoom in on the gun killing his parents and so on.
Oh yeah,
it's bad. But they never.
And they
much dialogue, that's the one thing you don't feel like mentioning.
And they do like reminding us about Bruce's parents being dead.
Yeah.
Did you know Bruce Wayne's parents are dead?
No, really?
Yeah, apparently they are.
Oh, poor guy. It's a wonder he didn't go all depressive and dressed up like a bat and.
Yeah, that would have been terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, the movie is very inconsistent about Batman's morals. Like suddenly he's all for not killing people, and all of a sudden he is for killing people, depending on the situation.
They don't really explain him, and I know we have a lot of Batman movies and most of us knows who Batman is, but even, when you put a new Batman in a new universe, you have to explain where he's at. They do explain that he's done it for 20 years.
Yeah, they do explain that, and they do actually set up his grudge against Superman. So
they use quite a lot of time on that he actually were one of the people in Metropolis doing the Man of Steel, and
he was trying to save one of the Wayne Industries building, and he sees how it falls down, and
there's a person inside that he knew. I have no idea who that person was because it was in Spanish.
Someone very important to Bruce Wayne. No, he wasn't important anyways. At least not that I know of. Maybe he's a comic book character. I don't really know.
Okay, I couldn't hear his name or something, obviously, because it was in Spanish when I
think he wasn't important, but the point is that they wanted to show Bruce Wayne as a man who cares about the people in his company. So even if he was this completely random guy, it meant a lot to him.
Yeah, and it meant a lot to him that he was one of the ground guys while all that damage in Metropolis happened, and he saw everything being destroyed.
Yeah, that's the thing.
him.
You can see how
And
Batman is confused.
He was terrified by it and was genuinely terrified by
And you can see
Superman.
how he's confused about Superman's real motives here, because from his perspective, it looks like he's the one that was destroying the building.
Yeah, so actually, it's quite understandable that he's so confused and so.
It is a good setup, which
The,
they completely destroy when he becomes his friend automatically.
The first couple of scenes where they actually use scenes from Man of Steel to introduce the new movie was actually really cool.
Yeah,
That was quite good. That's like Man of Steel. The first scene in the movie on Krypton was the best scene in the entire movie.
And then the movie goes through.
And then it got really shitty. And this one, the entire setup and so on was really good. And then Lex Luthor was introduced, and things got really silly.
Yeah, things got really stupid the moment Lex Luthor was introduced. Definitely. Batman versus Superman. Do you have a final verdict about the movie? Something that you can consider?
It's not the worst movie ever. I have seen far worse superhero movies. It's not the worst of the modern Hollywood movies and so on. It's not a harmful movie. It's innocent, but if you want a great movie, you might as well skip this one.
Yeah, definitely. If you're expecting the biggest, most epic dream gladiator match of all mankind, this is not your movie.
No, and as we discussed, Justice League the animated series, that's way better. If you want to be introduced to the DC universe, don't watch this movie. Watch Justice League the animated series, and then watch this movie afterwards.
And because in that show they actually explain things.
And
they
it's
actually
good,
explain,
and it makes sense, and they are nice, and they like each other.
They're actually superheroes in that movie.
Yes.
So my final thoughts.
No, not that movie. That series.
Series. Sorry. My final thoughts. I didn't hate it. I didn't like it either. There are just too many problems with the script, and all of the flaws I mentioned just were completely against it. I didn't have a terrible time.
No.
I didn't have a great time either. But especially with the last 10 minutes. But it's, I wouldn't say decent, but it's watchable. It's a watchable movie, perfectly serviceable. But it's nothing epic, nothing super huge. You're better off watching Civil War.
Which one?
You're better off watching Civil War.
Well, Civil War, Captain America, because we don't know that because we haven't watched the movie yet. It could be terrible.
I already know it's gonna be better.
Okay. It probably is. It's a Marvel movie.
Yeah, that's another thing. Everybody stayed after the credits because they were expecting an after credit scene just like in the Marvel movies. And when we got nothing, everybody complained.
Everybody made the same sound.
There was a collective groan from the audience.
Everybody
in the
else went, aww.
Like I was telling to Sophie, I'm actually quite happy that people now stay after the credits, because eventually somebody is going to read them, and that's good. People who worked on the movies need that recognition. So it's good that people stay after credits, even if there isn't an after credits scene. But if you were expecting one, yeah, it's not there.
It's not there. I'm disappointed, DC. You're not doing the superhero gig at all. You're not doing it correctly.
Oh, but you see, you're missing the point, Sophie. They don't want to be Marvel.
But Marvel is so good.
Yeah. That's the problem. DC wants to be the opposite of Marvel, so they want to be bad.
Well, I think we've been talking for like an hour or more.
It's gonna be fun to watch. For you.
Yeah, for you, hopefully. And hopefully we'll both make some more videos doing it or something like that.
Oh yeah. We still have a couple days left together, so we might make something else.
I don't know, because we are so tired when we are not doing awesome stuff like petting a shark.
Or going with dolphins, which is what we're going to do Friday, I think.
I pet a shark.
You did pet a shark.
I did pet a shark.
She held a shark, and it was this huge. It was an amazing thing. And
the guy wanted me to put the hand into the shark's mouth.
She didn't do it.
I didn't.
She should have done it. I didn't hold the shark because I was scared shitless. She's more of a man than I am, apparently. So yeah, but we did snorkel and we did see an awesome underwater museum. So yeah, vacations have been cool so far.
And we watched a Batman vs Superman movie.
And then we watched Batman vs Superman.
And I beat Team Rocket. So.
And she beat the Pokemon League, actually.
As you do in Mexico. That's why you go to Mexico, is to beat.
Yeah, you go to Mexico to finish Pokemon Red, of course.
Yeah.
Who else? What else are you gonna do in Mexico? Enjoy stuff? Go to the beach? No. You go to play Pokemon Red. Definitely. But yeah, so my recommendation is wait for the movie to come out in DVD. Don't go watch it.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to get my hands on some of the sheet music for the movie, because the music was actually really good.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, some of the things in the movie was really, really good, and other things was really, really bad. So really a mixed bag.
Oh yeah, just
really inconsistent.
Yeah, one last thing about the movie. Now that you mentioned that some things are good, the movie did feel like it looked like a comic book.
Yeah, again, it was beautiful. As I also said to you, that I feel like this looked way more like a Zack Snyder movie than Man of Steel did.
Man of Steel was completely gray and blue.
Yeah, Zack Snyder actually have a very stylish choice in movies, that his movies looks like a Zack Snyder movie, that he uses colors and shots and he makes beautiful movies. And this one actually looked like a Zack Snyder movie.
It was really well shot.
It was really nice looking. It was really beautiful looking, and lots of different colors, and using the lighting correctly.
And you could tell from some scenes. I don't know if you could tell, but you could tell from some scenes that he was using comic books as a reference.
Yes.
Some of the cars, the model of the cars, remind me of the old comics.
If you ever seen 300 or Watchmen and compared it to the comic book, he really, really referenced the comic book pure visually in those movies.
They
you cannot make a more accurate comic book movie than he did with 300 and Watchmen.
Doomsday, though, he does look like a gray Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, I don't fault Zack Snyder for that. I don't think that was his choice.
And more than his choice, I think, I'm pretty sure the entire final act wasn't Zack Snyder's choice.
I don't think the script at all was his choice. I really do blame David Goyer.
Yeah, David Goyer, who's sick of superheroes and apparently still writing superhero movies because money.
And also with Man of Steel, I never blame Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder is a really good director. He just needs to work with a good writer. But he didn't.
As we know, we have Christopher Nolan as a producer and David Goyer as a writer. So
that people need to know the difference between a script writer and a movie director. That their jobs are different. And this movie was directed beautifully. It was just written very badly.
You know what? It actually reminds me of Guillermo del Toro. His last movie was I forgot the name.
Crimson Peak.
Crimson Peak. Yeah. Crimson Peak was a gorgeous movie, but the script sucked.
Yeah, also what it really reminds me of is Tim Burton, that his movies always looks good, but you can always tell if he worked with a good or a bad writer, because he doesn't write himself, and he cannot write for his life. But as long as he works with a really good writer, he makes really good movies. But when he works with a really bad writer, the movies becomes really, really bad. So
that's when we start having problems.
But he still is a good director. There's nothing wrong with his directing. And with Zack Snyder, his directing doesn't lack anything. He's a really good director. He can direct actors, he can direct scenes, he can direct fights. This fighter looks gorgeous, but he needs a good writer to work with.
He does need
If he doesn't have a good writer, he's screwed. And that's probably why 300 and Watchmen work so well, because he basically made the comic books as movies, and the comic books already had the good story laid out for him.
In a way, he was trying to do this here, but the script just wasn't very good. Maybe the comic book wasn't very good either.
I heard that the Doomsday comic book actually wasn't that good, but
he actually combined various comic books. There's the Doomsday comic book, the Batman vs Superman comic book, and I think it's a combination.
And
of those
just Wonder Woman inserted.
And Wonder Woman just inserted there because Wonder Woman. And I think that's what hurt the movie, trying to combine those two scripts.
Maybe, I don't know. They tried too much in a way. It was kind of too overambitious.
It was too convoluted. Yeah, it was just too much. Just too much.
Yeah, as we talked about, when you make a fantastic movie in a fantastic universe, you need to keep it simple. You need to keep the skeleton simple so all the feeling can be fantastic.
Exactly.
And that's what Marvel is so good at, that if you have a writer skeleton, their skeleton is very, very simple, but that does that all the filling that you put on, all the nice thing, all the icing and cake can be very fantastic because the skeleton can hold it.
Yeah, that's what I was actually telling Sophie earlier, that I see many comic book fanboys complaining that Civil War will suck because it doesn't have like 100 superheroes fighting each other, and that's not how it works. That's not how a good story works. It might have worked in the comic, but that's because you have years and years of comic book history to back that up. Here, we only have a few movies for these specific characters, but I think it might work with these characters because there are not that many.
I will though say I did chuckle at the meme that I saw where it was what you expect, and you see all these hundreds of superheroes clustered together, and what you get beneath them where it's just these 6 people running towards each other.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of amusing.
That did me kind of chuckle, but movie-wise, it's good that it didn't just insert a lot of superheroes for no reason.
Personally, I hate that meme because it's...
Yeah, I think it's quite funny.
You don't need that many characters, but whatever. Comic book fans will be comic book fans.
Well, She-Hulk is a slut anyway. That's what David Goyer says, and David Goyer is the god in comic book writing.
And that's what the fans of the movie are going to be telling you, so you can watch the movie. So you want to watch the movie because She-Hulk is a slut anyways.
That apparently makes her a bad character.
I am so glad. I am so glad Wonder Woman has different people on board. But yeah.
Her movie might potentially be very good.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying I am so glad that different people are on board with that project.
Yeah, and we have an actress who actually decided to smile in the shot after the... I think that was improvised too, I don't think...
I was pleasantly surprised by Gal Gadot's performance here. Sure, she's not the muscular giant woman, but
she pulls it off. You do believe that she really kicks ass in that scene. In that one scene she has kicking ass.
Which is like 5 minutes long, I think.
But it was a good 5 minutes.
Yeah, they were good. So yeah,
and
don't go see it.
We really need to go to bed now. It's like 4 in the morning.
Yeah, so our final words. Don't go see it. Wait for the DVD if you really want to see it. You may be wasting your time thinking it's going to be this huge epic thing. It really isn't. What about you?
Yeah, as I said, if you want to be introduced into the DC comic book movieverse, watch the Justice League animated series instead, and then watch this sometime afterwards, because this is not a good introduction.
Definitely.
Then there are other better introductions, especially Justice League the animated series from the 90s, which is an exceptionally good series.
Definitely.
And if you already are a fan of this, you are probably going to watch it no matter what we say anyway.
Yeah.
This is going to make lots of money no matter what. But I don't know if it's worth the price of admission.
I don't think it is, honestly. But if you're a fan, you're probably gonna watch it anyway.
You're going to watch it anyway. It doesn't really matter.
It's okay. If you want, you can go see it. Form your own opinion.
It's not going to hurt you. It's
it's not going to be bad. You're not going to hate it. At least I didn't hate it, and I was expecting to hate it. Actually,
yeah.
I actually was expecting to hate it, and I came out not hating it. So
it didn't hurt my little heart that much.
No, it didn't make me suffer a lot, except for the last 10 minutes. But yeah, that's our final thoughts. I hope you enjoyed our rambling, guys. I wish we could do it more often, but different countries.
This will probably be the only time, so I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope you really enjoyed it. And thanks for watching. Oh my god, how long?